All right, so that takes us to the second female bout on the UFC 251 main card. And this one, man, talk about some crazy odds to open up with. The Brazilian Amanda Ribas came in as a minus 800 favorite at the beginning of the opening odds that I saw. She is currently down to a minus 450, going against a Paige Vanzant, one of back in the day, the poster women for women's sport, MMA, dubbed by some possibly the next Ronda Rousey. Paige Vanzant comes into this fight. She opened, as a plus 550 underdog. Current odds as of this recording, plus 350. I mean, again, do those odds and what a huge favorite the Brazilian is, does that surprise you at all, Jordan?
That it was an extremely surprising line for me. I feel that was something. One, it's unfair to Ribas in the sense that they're putting this much, because to me, if you're coming in at a minus 800 favorite, that means that anything short of you essentially dominating and finishing that matchup means that you didn't go along with the course of what was expected of you. And I think that's tough. Paige is a lot tougher than people give her credit for. Yes, Paige is she is the blonde-haired, Barbie sort of image that is so commercially sellable, that was able to cross over into the mainstream and do your things such as Dancing with the Stars, and is on so many other different commercial outlets. And she gets so much hatred from the fan base for that for some reason. But it's the simple thing of, if any single, and this is my experience, if any fighter out there could go and make the type of money that she does by putting up a couple of social media posts, they're lying to you if they're telling you that they wouldn't take the opportunity to make that much money that easily. But I also feel, to a certain extent, there's some jealousy elements that come into play, because why does she get that and I don't? That's a lot of it. She has more than half a dozen wins in the UFC. She has finishes in the UFC. Her last fight was a finish. She has an exciting style. She has that point fighting karate style where she's going to throw some spinning kicks. She's going to throw some flashy strikes in the mix. And, also with Ribas, with Ribas, it's not to disrespect her by any means, but her best win is Mackenzie Dern, I would personally say. But that was also, if you really look, between the lines of that win, that was Mackenzie Dern's first fight back from maternity. So she had been off for a long time, and who knows how the body really responds that first time back out.
Yes, and Mackenzie Dern has a history of issues making weight. I think that was a very tough weight cut for her. But bottom line, 26-year-old Ribas, got the win. She's now pushed her record to 9-1 overall. And truthfully, I think is one of the emerging talents in the sport and on the roster. For Vanzant, a lot on the line. I believe this is her last fight on her contract for the UFC. So she's got a lot to fight for. She doesn't want to come off with another loss. And trust me, with how marketable Paige is, there will be any organization that would jump at the opportunity to get her on. Maybe, I don't know, maybe. But so she's got a lot on the line for sure. I think she has a lot to prove. And you make a great point. I think that unfairly, there are a lot of haters of Paige Vanzant because she is so marketable. She is talented. She's beautiful. She can do all these other things like Dancing with the Stars. And you should. I mean, any athlete should be able to market themselves in any way that they can, because whatever sport you're playing, it's not going to last forever. So you have to be ready for that. And you go back to, the broken arm she suffered against, I believe, Jessica Rose Clark. She still was dealing with some issues from there, and just has had a roller coaster couple of years, but she's still only 26 years old. 5-3 overall in the UFC. So a lot on the line for Paige Vanzant to prove that she is still one of the top fighters in the sport and in the 125-pound weight class. And really with this division, I think the winner could establish themselves as one of the contenders.
Definitely. It's a big opportunity for each of these fighters within this contest. One, it's a big name to have on Ribas's resume. But, just like you said, though, Ron, I think this is almost, maybe it's a test from the UFC to see really what Paige has, or how, I guess, committed that she is in this sort of situation. Yeah. Having to fight such a dog and such a tough competitor. Because this is just my take, or my foresight, if you will. This is Paige's last fight in the UFC, win or lose.
Yeah, could very well be. And
I don't see her getting the contract offer from the UFC that she could potentially get from, because a lot of people don't realize, or some people do, and then this is where some of that extra, hate or shade comes from. Her husband, Austin Vanderford, fights in Bellator. And, they speak very well about how they pretty much rolled out the carpet for them on that side of things.
True.
Mm-hmm. And you wonder what sort of internal dynamic or difficulty or difference there is with Paige and Austin in the UFC, because Austin got a very convincing win on the Contender Series and he didn't get offered a contract. Yeah. So you wonder what the behind the scenes dynamics are of that particular situation. She's been very vocal up front about how she thinks that this is going to be the last one. She's been going on for well over a year now saying about that she makes more money off of an Instagram post than she does with her fights, that she made more money on one single season of Dancing with the Stars than her entire fight career.
Right. Not exactly what you want to do to your employer if you are hoping to stay around with them. Yeah. Great insight. That is very true. So it's a lot on the line in that fight, but yeah, it might take if the UFC really wanted to keep Paige around, they might have given her maybe a different opponent, not one of their emerging superstars who is really dominating right now. But we will see. She does get on the pay-per-view, so there's some money there. Should be an interesting fight to wrap up the UFC 251 pay-per-view. Well,